Good morning, everybody. Jim Feist and Hank Goldberg from Vegas. Preseason is over, Hank. Thank God for that. Had a good preseason, but I'm anxious to get to the real games. How about you?
Yeah, well, the real college game started last night, and there were a couple of routes that occurred. I'll tell you one team that might be back for real.
Okay, go ahead.
Central Florida, they're back, but they crushed Connecticut, and they're going to be good again, although they lost their coach. But Northwestern Purdue, I watched the end of that game, and Northwestern had a slight lead. Purdue had come back in that game, and a dumb penalty. Purdue was going to get the ball back with 2.5 minutes to go, and a kid for Purdue had an unnecessary roughness penalty that gave the ball back to Northwestern so they could eat up the clock and win. Otherwise, I think Purdue was going to come back and win that game. And other than that, tonight there are a few more games, and it's going to one game that's going to be interesting will be Colorado, to see if Colorado State can come back and off their loss to Hawaii. Stanford has San Diego State. San Diego State has a pretty good team. They might give Stanford, who has a Heisman candidate, a run for their money.
Yeah, we're into it. Michigan and Notre Dame, that's a big game. You got some big games out there. You got the Washington-Auburn game's a big game. Lots of fan interest. We're back. Football's back. And anything in the pros that you saw last night that might turn your head about for pro or con on any of the teams?
No, I don't think so. I mean, they weren't, Seattle, which usually tries in these games, did not win against Oakland. The Chargers beat San Francisco, but they didn't even play their guys. Nobody was playing any of the regulars. Arizona finished up a decent preseason. But I don't know what any of these things mean. For example, Buffalo, Chicago had a big lead over Buffalo, and then in the fourth quarter, Buffalo Scrubs came up with 25 points to beat Chicago. It was, the Bears had a real decisive lead over them going into the fourth quarter. They were ahead by 20-something points and lost the game. I don't know what all these things mean. I'll tell you, Cincinnati's defense played pretty well in preseason. I don't know if that's indicative of anything or not. The Dolphins crushed Atlanta. Atlanta didn't play any of their regulars the entire preseason. But the Dolphins, to crush anybody with the team they have, was eye-opening.
Well, like you said, there's probably not much to learn as a team. Individual players, maybe. Preseason has less value these days than it used to because the coaches used to try in more games then than they do now. So it's really moving on to the regular season without all that information in our heads, because we have to pick up the bits and pieces out of their practices to know a little bit more about them. I think the coaches have figured out they better not lose players, and staying healthy is more important than winning these preseason games for these guys, and I don't blame them. At all. Baseball is baseball. It's a pennant race. There's lots going on. Some surprises, and the bullpens are giving up games late constantly. It's a different game. The bullpens are really, it's a crapshoot with some of these bullpens.
Well, the Dodgers got their bullpen healthy, and they've crept back into the race in the West. It's a three-team race right now between Arizona and Colorado and the Dodgers. San Francisco has kind of played itself out. Houston, Verlander lost another game for them yesterday, and Oakland is still 2.5 games behind them. They've cooled off a little bit. And Seattle is, 7 games back. They're not totally out of it, but they're not looking too good right now. But it looks like it's Houston and Oakland in that Western race. Outside of that, the Red Sox are cruising. They kind of hit the wall, lost a few games last week, but they're still so far ahead it doesn't matter. Same with the Yankees, who are still 4.5 games ahead in the wild card. And the Yankees got to get some guys healthy. They've had a couple of guys who've been out for a long time, and the question is, when are they going to get to be 100%? And will they be 100% when the postseason comes around? And outside of that, Atlanta, some of the experts on ESPN said Atlanta was going to cave, and Atlanta hasn't caved. Their young players have come through for them, and Philadelphia is lagging behind a little bit. So, the reality is, aside from the West, the races are pretty much decided.
Pretty much, that's true. We still got a couple games to go, and you got to stay on top of it because anything can happen, short runs and stuff like that. You got horses this weekend? Anything exciting?
There's a Grade 1 stakes at Saratoga again, but the Del Mar meet is coming to a close. I think this weekend Del Mar closes, and they'll move up the road for another meet, and so they'll be at Los Al, which is kind of a fun meet, but no big major races. So the summer racing meeting in Southern California is coming to an end, and they have produced one major favorite for the Breeders' Cup, and Saratoga has about another week or so to go, and then they'll be leaving northern New York. So summer racing is coming to a conclusion.
There's one last question for you. In the NFL, is there one team that is surprisingly looking good and one team that's surprisingly looking bad?
Well, Baltimore is looking good. I don't know if it's a surprise anymore, but they had a great preseason. They're very strong defensively. They've got a good running game, which was on display this summer, and I think they're a team that everybody has an eye on. And Houston, I don't know if that's a big surprise, but be anxious to see what Houston does against New England in that opening game. A team that's looking bad, Arizona has looked good. You don't know if that's a mirage or not, but they've got good players. A lot of good players left. They've got one of the top running backs in the league. They've got very good defensive players, and they might surprise some teams. But as far as who's looking bad, Seattle, don't know what's going to happen with them. They didn't have a particularly good preseason, and they lost some players, and maybe too many players from their defense. I don't know who else would be a surprise in particular.
Well, I don't think it would be a surprise, but Buffalo looks to be really bad.
No, that's no surprise. They don't have a quarterback. They may not have their star running back. And, among the other teams who might not be so good, I don't know what Tennessee's going to be about. they didn't reveal very much in this preseason, and they've got a new coaching staff. But they've got some quality players there. They're kind of iffy to me. It's hard to get a beat on them. I think there's going to be a lot of unknowns actually this year. I don't know what Cincinnati's going to be about.
Now, Cincinnati's looked much better in the preseason than most of us expected. You never know if that'll carry over to the regular season. So many times in the preseason, you'll get a team that'll go 4-0 and then just, lose every game in the regular season, like Cleveland did last year. So you just don't know. That's why we dig in. We do a lot of research. We talk to a lot of people. We try to get a heads up on a couple plays each week that'll make us and our fans happy and make the money. And that's what we do each and every day. Hank's plays are at jimfeist.com as well as mine. That's jimfeist.com for all your plays for this weekend and next week. The NFL opens next week, Thursday night, Atlanta at Philly. Super Bowl champ coming back. They got a lot of ifs on the quarterback position. But it's going to be interesting. Good luck this season to everybody out there, and thank you for listening. Thank you, Hank, again for your time.
All right, Jim. Have a good day.
You too.